Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a look at a 2024 NFL mock draft. And for those who are new, right now at this point, we've watched the film on a lot of these guys. Obviously, a whole half of the season to go. But start talking about where we're starting to stack some of these players at their position groups. Worry less about the fits on teams. Obviously, the draft order is going to change. Team needs are going to change. But this is a nice opportunity to talk about what we've seen from these prospects through the halfway point of the college football season. Y'all know I love draft season. Very excited to get into it. Before we do again, just want to say thank you to you guys. And NFL draft, it is my favorite time of the year. I love talking prospects with you guys in the comment section as well. So if you do enjoy the content, one, consider subscribing to the channel. But two, let me know how you guys are evaluating these prospects, who you want to see your team be taking. We're going to be ripping a lot of these in the next couple of weeks, so really excited for that. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with the conversation of Caleb Williams in the number one selection. I have him still going one. Now, I will say, I'm not ready to take Caleb Williams out of that number one spot just because he had two really rough games against Notre Dame, against Utah. That being said, some of the concerns that we had about Caleb Williams heading into the season are starting to kind of rear their ugly heads the last couple of weeks, right? We talked about trying to do a little too much off script stuff as opposed to just running the offense and playing within the offense. That's kind of exactly what you've seen the last 2 weeks, right? Caleb Williams threw 3 interceptions in the first half against Notre Dame. And pretty much all of those interceptions have been him just trying to do too much. That being said, as of right now, I was extremely high on Caleb Williams heading into this season. Not much has changed, right? I'm not ready to destroy his draft stock because he had 2 bad games. That being said, some of those concerns are worth taking a look at, especially with Justin Fields maybe having some of those concerns coming out of school as well. But right now, Caleb Williams going number one overall to the Chicago Bears. Number 2, the best non-quarterback prospect in this class, Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Arizona Cardinals. This is an opportunity for the Cardinals. One, you want to get a feel for, is Kyler Murray the future of this program? Go give of the team. Go give him the number one wide receiver in this class. I really haven't seen a wide receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. in the evaluation process. The size, the speed, the body control. Not only is he just extremely fast, extremely big, but his body control and his ability to go make contested catches, work after the catch, it kind of checks every single one of the boxes that you want in a wide receiver. This is a loaded wide receiver class. You're about to see a lot of wide receivers come off the board. But Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is the special one in this class. Now, number 3, and this is going to turn a lot of heads, but I got to stick to my guns here in Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse is the best edge defender in this class. And when you look at the stat sheet, it's nothing absolutely eye-popping. But when you turn on the film, this is a guy that creates havoc in the backfield. His speed to power, his ability to just go right through a tackle's chest, it's really next level. I think this year you've seen him refine some pass rush moves as well. But most importantly, he is the best edge defender in terms of stopping the run as well. Always keeps that outside shoulder clean. He's a guy that can handle double teams, can handle tackles trying to move him off the line of scrimmage. For that reason, again, Jared Verse is not going to be the number one edge for a lot of people, but for how I think he encompasses that position and does some of the things that aren't necessarily talked about enough in that position, I love Jared Verse. He's going to be a top 5 prospect on my board. I think he's sitting at 6 right now, but I think this would be a really good fit in terms of not only getting after the passer, but stopping the run. Number 4, Kool-Aid McKinstry, my number 1 cornerback, a guy that is just a freak show athlete, going to test extremely well at the combine. We know schools or NFL teams really prioritize athleticism at that cornerback spot, but he's not just an athlete. I mean, he puts it on the film as well. When you look at some of the numbers, Kool-Aid McKinstry, elite in man coverage, going back to his high school days, was a two-way player, really good ball skills. Kool-Aid McKinstry, pretty comfortably my cornerback 1, and opposite Pat Surtain, 2 really, really good Alabama cornerbacks. So this is nice building blocks for the Detroit Lions. And number 5, going back to the quarterback position, and this is a guy that I don't necessarily think is going to be there at 5. I think a team is going to trade up for him, but we didn't do trades in this draft. Again, just talking prospects. We're going Drake May, 6'4", 220, kind of checks all the boxes that you want in terms of a franchise NFL quarterback. Takes care of the football, can make every throw that you want, can extend plays. He has that big arm. He has that big frame. Drake May, the last 2 years, has been so clean. And I could see Drake May making a push for that quarterback one conversation. And I think the Giants, I don't know. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Daniel Jones ain't that guy. If you have the opportunity to go grab a legitimate franchise quarterback, I think you do so. And the Patriots are in the same boat. And I'm going JJ McCarthy again, very similar to Drake May. Doesn't have the stats that Drake May had last year. But when you turn on the film of JJ like that, the offense runs through the run game. But what you're seeing JJ take that step, he had all the boxes checked. Elite athlete, good frame, really, really good arm. You wanted to see him be more of a quarterback that can dominate a game, not just be a supplement to a really good rushing attack. And he's done that this year, right? They're not relying as much play action. And JJ McCarthy, I think, has taken a massive step in the right direction. And he's going to go up against some elite defenses in the second half of the year. You're going to see what JJ McCarthy's about. But from a traits perspective, I think he's checking all the boxes. On field perspective, checking all the boxes. He's a leader in that locker room as a third-year guy. JJ McCarthy, I think, checks a lot of the boxes that you want in a franchise NFL quarterback. And again, same conversation. Mac Jones ain't it. Don't worry about waiting on a quarterback. If you have the opportunity to go get a quarterback, keep swinging that bat. Number 7, Joe Wall. He's my tackle one, and it's close between him and Olu Fashanu. But you go back and watch the film on Olu against Ohio State. I thought he didn't look great. Joe Wall has gone up against some really good pass rushers. He's only given up one quarterback hurry all year. He's a guy that can row great in the run game, a freaky athlete for his size. Joe Wall with David Bakhtiari out on the way out, I think makes a lot of sense for the Green Bay Packers. And then number 8, another quarterback, and I'm going Bo Nix. Bo Nix, you look at his numbers. He's completing almost 80% of his balls. That's number 1 in college football. 19 touchdowns to 1 interception. Elite pushing the ball down the field. I don't know if there's a player in this draft that has a bigger misconception than Bo Nix. I think when he was at Auburn, he was surrounded by absolutely nothing, going up against SEC edge rushers who were just dominating that Auburn offensive line. He goes to Oregon, you're seeing the best Bo Nix. And don't forget, this guy was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He has all that talent. He's put it together at Oregon. I'm a massive Bo Nix fan. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick in this NFL draft. Number 9, get Justin Herbert, a weapon that can do pretty much everything. The number 1 tight end I've ever evaluated, Brock Bowers. Don't care about the ankle sprain. This is a truly generational tight end, and I think he could fall to number 9 because you've seen other tight ends get picked in the top 5, guys like Kyle Pitts, and not really lived up to the NFL draft type. Brock Bowers, elite after the catch, runs routes like a wide receiver, has hands and physicality like a tight end. There's not a single thing Brock Bowers has as a whole in his game. And if the Chargers get him at number 9, I think that's one of the biggest steals in the NFL draft. Now, number 10, Olu, again, mentioned the struggles with him against Ohio State. And that stuff's important, right? When you have the opportunity to go against NFL quality edge rushers, that film all of a sudden is very important. And he didn't look great against Ohio State. That being said, super, super sound. Really, really good frame. There's a reason that a lot of people have him as that number 1 tackle in the class. And quite frankly, I wouldn't really fight them. I think he looks everything the Tennessee Titans want in an offensive tackle. This one makes a lot of sense. Laiatu Latu, and this is a very interesting prospect going to the Saints at number 11. My thing with Latu, he is an elite pass rusher. I mean, this is a guy that has a 25% pass rush win rate through 6 games, has already had 20 quarterback hurries. You want the best pure pass rusher in this NFL draft class. I think that's Laiatu Latu. And again, do you have concerns about him holding up in the run? Yeah, maybe. But if you're drafting a guy in that top 12 range, you want him to be able to get after the passer. I don't think anyone does it better than Latu out of UCLA. Number 12, the Raiders have a ton of needs that they could address, but I'm going to go and get my second best cornerback in Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Elite ball skills, 7 interceptions in the last 2 years, so essentially a year and a half. Really, really good athlete. This is a guy that going back to his high school days was an elite basketball player, all around the best athlete on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Also plays the position extremely well. Similar conversation to Kool-Aid McKinstry. When you check the athleticism boxes and you check the film box, like that is what a top 15 cornerback looks like. And number 13, Roman Duzne. And I could see a lot of people arguing Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Johnny Wilson. I've seen in this. My process for wide receivers, it has a lot to do with production. Like you look at a lot of the wide receivers that are thriving at the college level. I think one of the biggest misconceptions a lot of teams have is they just draft traits. You know what I mean? Keon Coleman has a ton of traits, and I wouldn't know if I would argue taking Keon Coleman here. That being said, a guy like Roman Duzne, 6'3", 215 pounds, the movement skills are off the chart. His ability to track a football and make contested catches off the chart. He's produced for back-to-back years. I'm going to trust not. He doesn't have bad traits, but he's a guy that's put those traits and put it on the football field. He's been truly the best wide receiver this year. I think people get too wrapped up in 40 times and kind of the raw athleticism and forget evaluate the guy as a football player, right? Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson. Those are guys that not necessarily crushed it at Cooper Kupp. Certainly didn't crush it at the combine, but he crushed it on the field. And I think that's what matters when you're evaluating wide receivers. I think too many people worry about the testing numbers. Number 14, the road grader, Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State. I don't know if there's a bigger riser on my draft board than Talisi Fuaga. I don't have him in my top 20, but I'm starting to like him more and more. Absolute road grader in the run game. And he's good in pass pro too. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's 330 pounds, really good athlete. But the way he gets outside, they run a lot of stretch zone concepts at Oregon State. He is a phenomenal athlete with next level power. I'm starting to fall in love with this cat. And I think he's comfortably that number 3 offensive tackle for me. And then going out to the LA Rams, finally having a first round pick, Johnny Newton from Illinois. Excuse me. I'm a big fan of Johnny Newton because he can do it both ways. Very similar to my eval and Jared Verse. Is he going to win the measurements and testing at the combine? Probably not, right? 6'3", 295. That being said, you turn on the film, pass rush win rate over 15%, had a 20+% one last year. This last year, he would have been a top 50 pick. He comes back to school really good in the run game, really good as a pass rusher. Again, you watch the film of this guy. He is a next level kind of guy and kind of similar Aaron Donald build, a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter, but the get off the line of scrimmage is that next level. I really like Johnny Newton to the LA Rams. Number 16, Cardinals go get Graham Barton. And this is the Peter Skoronski of the 2023 class. And I think that Graham Barton is a guy that the measurables and the testing aren't going to be like an elite offensive tackle prospect, just like Peter Skoronski. You turn on the film, just a squeaky clean prospect. Now, he hasn't had a great year. He's been battling some injuries, but Graham Barton, I think, could play guard, could play. I think he can play tackle. Same thing with Peter Skoronski, even though they got him at guard. I think Peter Skoronski can play tackle. I'd like to see them try him at tackle. But Graham Barton, is one of my favorite prospects on the board because the film is just absolutely nails. It was last year, it was this year. Number 17, J.C. Latham, right tackle from Alabama. Jets want to address the off. And this J.C. Latham, former top 5 national prospect out of high school, he's the one who checks all the boxes, stays at right tackle for Alabama. Squeaky clean film, checks a lot of the measurables. Big fan of J.C. Latham. I think this is a rather safe pick, too. You stick him at that tackle spot, I think he's going to be really good for the New York Jets. And another guy that this isn't a sexy pick here, but I think Troy Franklin is going to be one of the better wide receivers in this class. Very similar conversation you have with Roman Duzne. But Troy Franklin, I think so. He's not as a big of body. They have very similar frames. Roman Duzne a little bit thicker. That being said, Troy Franklin, movement skills off the charts, create separation. It's very similar conversation. You look at the wide receivers that are thriving in the NFL. They're guys who can run good routes, have good movement skills. Troy Franklin is that kind of wide receiver. If T. Higgins ain't going to be there anymore, Troy Franklin, I think, could be an elite replacement for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 19, need a quarterback, and this is a good quarterback class. Like Bo Nix, Michael Penix, both come back to school, and I think both are raising their draft stocks. Michael Penix has taken 2 sacks all year. I mean, he gets the ball out extremely quickly. He's extremely accurate all ways of the field, can extend plays when needed to. Michael Penix checks a lot of boxes that you want in a quarterback, and he's been prolific. I think arguably going to win the Heisman Trophy in a couple months. I'll go grab Michael Penix at number 19 for the Bucs. Number 20, Malik Neighbors. Again, a guy that's just putting so much production on the film this year. Smooth mover, creates separation, Very, very good contested catch. They go to him a lot, and he comes up a lot. Number 21, Keon Coleman to my Buffalo Bills. We took Gabe Davis a couple of years ago out of UCF to be a bigger body that stretches the field. Hasn't really worked out. I think the Bills are looking for that wide receiver too. Keon Coleman, you talk about freaky athleticism. This is a guy that could play basketball at the Division I level if he had wanted to. Goes down to Florida State in a more prolific offense, and he is putting on circus catch after circus catch. And Sean McDermott, Billy Bean, they're going to love this. Brandon Bean, I should say. They are going to love how he blocks down the field as well. Give me Keon Coleman at 21. Number 22, Leonard Taylor, another 5-star prospect. Going to the Detroit Cowboys. Leonard Taylor coming out of high school, 5-star guy, checks every box, goes to the Hurricanes. First year and two, struggled with injuries the second year. Freshman year, played sparingly, didn't necessarily pop, and man, has he kind of put it all together in year three. They've been kind of doing some load management. I know he's been battling some injuries. He is a game wrecker on the inside. His get off for someone who's 305 pounds has been next level, a 17.5% pass rush win rate from the inside. The Cowboys, they want to create havoc in the backfield with guys like Micah Parsons, Leonard Taylor, another guy to do that. Dallas Turner, you talk about a perfect fit. That stand-up linebacker who can kind of really, really good against the run, holding the edge, can play in space, drop him on the flat. He plays like an off-ball linebacker, can rush the passer like an elite edge rusher. Dallas Turner, extremely versatile chess piece. I think that's a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 24, one of my favorite picks of this draft, Emeka Egbuka going to the Texans. I'm not as high on Emeka Egbuka as most. That being said, if you want to build around C.J. Stroud, you have Nico Collins, you have Tank Dell. Emeka Egbuka kind of middles those guys, right? Nico Collins, that big boundary wide receiver. Tank Dell, a guy that it was one of my darlings last year in this draft class in terms of creating separation. Emeka Egbuka, really good after the catch. Kind of has that running back feel after the catch, but creates separation, smooth mover. Him and CJ Stroud had great chemistry at Ohio State. Let's bring that back to Houston. Number 25, Zach Zinner, one of my number one interior offensive line prospect if I'm evaluating Graham Barton as a tackle. Zach Zinner, next level run blocking power. This is a guy that is probably going to be, I don't know his bench, but I would be very surprised if he's not first in the interior offensive line in terms of bench press. This is a guy with extreme upper body power, moves people off the line of scrimmage, plays with really good pad level. If you want a guy on the inside that can move bodies, help Kenneth Walker get that run game going, I don't know if there's a better interior offensive lineman than Zach Zinner. Number 26, again, this was a guy in the offseason that Nate Wiggins hasn't really put on great film. He came on as a second year last year at Clemson. He was a guy that checks all the boxes, 6'2", 200 pounds, extremely fast. He was a guy that I said, if he puts it together, he's going to be a first-round NFL draft pick, and boy, has he put it together. Nate Wiggins, you talk about, because you knew the athleticism was there. He probably could leave and not put great film and be a top 100 pick because he is a freaky athlete, but he's put the film together too. And Nate Wiggins is kind of blasting on my boards. I'm a massive fan of Nate Wiggins going to Detroit. Number 27, this is more of the, do you want to get the freak show athlete? Xavier Legette, 6'3", 227 pounds, is probably going to run one of the fastest 40s as a wide receiver. He is big and fast. Now, I think my knock on Xavier Legette is he's a very linear athlete, and I don't know if I have a first-round grade on him yet but I wanted to include him because I wanted to talk about him. He's very linear, right? And so he's really good on those drag routes. He's really good on those 9 routes. He's a guy that's really hard to bring down with his size and speed. That being said, in terms of creating separation, I'm not sure if I love him yet. And so he's dealing with some injuries right now, but the first half of the season, insanely productive, mostly doing those kind of linear route trees. My big question is, can you create some separation? And if he can, he is a guy that is a first-round caliber wide receiver because the traits are freaky. Baltimore Ravens getting Chris Jenkins again. Mike McDonald coached at Michigan 2 years ago. Chris Jenkins, one of the more complete interior defensive linemen in this class. Really, really good pass rusher. Kind of a cool story. Started out as an edge rusher coming out of high school, put on a ton of weight. I had a caution having him in that first round because last year he played probably around 285. He's a lean guy. What did he do in the offseason? Got up to 305 pounds, holds up on the inside, rushes the passer at an elite level. When you can find guys on the inside that can stop the run and give you some pass rush help, that's what you want to see. And I think that's what Chris Jenkins has. The Dolphins got to help that offensive line, and they're going to go get a Tracy Amarius Mims, who, again, former five-star prospect coming out of high school. First year starting for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now is down with an ankle injury. Should be back for this Florida game this weekend. A guy that if you wanted to build an offensive tackle in the lab, and you know the NFL loves this, right? They want the traits at the tackle position. If you wanted to build an offensive tackle in the lab in terms of size, in terms of athleticism, in terms of arm length, Amarius Mims would be that offensive tackle. You have a small sample size of him, but man, if he hits and figures it out, he's going to be kind of an all-pro caliber tackle. Chop Robinson, a guy I'm not as high on as most. He falls down to 30 to 49ers, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The 49ers, I think, and if one, Chop Robinson, super twitched up, I think he is a little bit raw still, but the 49ers are in a very nice position to go grab kind of one of those guys that maybe needs some development. They have a really, really good roster. They could have gone offensive line, but I want Chop Robinson here. And then a pick that just makes too much sense. You're going to see this is going to be one of the most popular NFL mock draft selections. Xavier Worthy to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to get the Tyreek Hill comps. I don't think he's quite that, but how explosive Xavier Worthy is in terms of Tyreek Hill has long speed. What makes him really special is his ability to go 0 to 100 really, really quick with that acceleration and that twitch. Xavier Worthy has that level of twitch, and I think he'd be a really, really fun fit for Kansas City, so I'll throw him in there. And then 32, I wanted to leave some guys on the board and just talk a little bit about some guys that I'm not quite sold on yet. Philadelphia Eagles, I think, could certainly go wide receiver. I also think they could go into the back end of that defense. Kalen King, I think he lacks traits, has not had a good year on the football field. Last year, he was awesome opposite Joey Porter Jr. Steps into that cornerback one role. I don't know if I'm sold on him yet because I think when you don't have the traits and then the film is questionable at times, I don't know if I love that. Cam Kitchens, I think, has a ton of instincts. Maybe the trait's not there. Tyler Newman, I like. We're going to go A.D. Mitchell from the Texas Longhorns. Back-to-back Texas Longhorns here. A.D. Mitchell, transferred from Georgia, struggled with health, but finally putting it together. I mean, he has the size. He has the movement skills. He has those ball skills as well. We'll go A.D. Mitchell to the Eagles to round it out. That'll do it. I mean, there's a lot of prospects that we're going to get into. We're going to get our position rankings out. We're going to put an Excel sheet for you guys as well with all our prospect rankings. This is a good start. A lot of guys that we didn't get to talk about that I do want to talk about. We'll get to that later. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. NFL draft season coming up. Can't wait to dig into it further. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.